Welcome back to PR After Hours. I'm your host, Alex Greenwood, bringing you your weekly cocktail of PR and marketing tips that will help you and your business. Hello, listeners. It's me, Alex, from PR After Hours. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. And I wanted to talk to you just for a moment about the way I get this show right into your earbuds every week. It's because I use Anchor FM. Now, I've told you previously that I've been podcasting since 2006, back when we used stone knives and bear skins and a couple of Dixie cups and string. Anchor FM has really streamlined this and made it simpler for people who don't know the first thing about setting up a podcast or don't have, time to learn all the pro tools and stuff, because it's all right here. First thing it's important to know is it's free. There are certain tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. That's huge. Distribution is a big pain in the butt, to be honest with you, so it's really great Anchor FM can do that for you, and you're not paying hosting fees. That adds up every month. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started, and be sure to join me in the virtual cocktail lounge on PR After Hours. Welcome back to your weekly cocktail of PR and marketing tips. Every week, a fresh concoction of public relations, marketing, and business management tips and news and interviews with the pros. And I am really excited to have back already a favorite guest from the CKP group, Carey Kirkpatrick, CEO, founder. They do marketing, PR, advertising, consulting, all sorts of stuff out of Houston. Carey, welcome back to PR After Hours.
Cheers, Alex.
Yay, thank you. And we'll get that drink order taken care of in just a moment for you. And meanwhile, here's some peanuts. Carey, I'd like to chat with you a little bit about how PR agencies, a lot of our listeners are business people who go here for PR tips, and a lot of them are PR professionals and agencies. And sometimes I think it's not clear how PR agencies can benefit brands, particularly now in the time of a pandemic, but just in general, wondering, what's your general thoughts on that as an agency owner and a longtime PR veteran?
Yeah, that's such an interesting idea right now, because I've heard of so many companies either reducing or completely changing their relationship with a PR agency right now, which means they don't understand or don't see the value. And really, the way that I like to think about it is the PR agency and the PR professionals working on your account or working in general, they're the ultimate chameleons. They can really adapt to change very quickly. They're proactive. They understand how to position and how to message. And in a situation right now, like we're experiencing, why wouldn't you want to have those people on your team that can see several miles ahead through the fog to know what to do?
Sometimes I have clients, and I do a lot of what I call executive counsel, and a lot of times they're just paying me to sit down with them for an hour and listen to what they're planning to do, and just how will that sound from the outside. You know about our business, but you're not immersed in it, and you're not walking the same, well, now virtual hallways as we are and meeting with this. So how does this sound to you? And I've done that, like I said previously in another interview with you. I've done that for a local government. They're just like, what do you think we need to do? Can you look at what we're doing now and poke holes in it? And that's what people want. So I think that that's an extremely valuable use of PR consulting or PR agencies, is we can look at what you're doing from all the angles, and we can identify looking around the corner for you and going, look, if you say it this way, it may not be so great in about 2 weeks. This is going to look bad. Or maybe your normal slogan you use in a time that's not a pandemic sounds tone deaf in a time during a pandemic. Those kinds of things, right?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. It's all about having a broader sense of and understanding of what's happening in the world. And publicists are great at that. They're great at that in a way that marketers, advertisers are less great. Marketing and advertising professionals are certainly wonderful and spectacular at certain things, but they're not used to having to earn the attention where publicists are used to having to earn the attention, so they have to have an understanding of what's going on and how to cut through. But that's an interesting way to work with clients too, is just to poke holes in everything for them.
Yeah,
um,
that's part of what we do. I do is crisis comm planning, right?
hmm
And there was an
hmm
episode we did of this show in February 12th, 2020. Said this is giving me chills when I read this. Are you ready for the inevitable public relations crisis?
Yeah.
you know, and I
hmm
and I've had several things leading up to that. In fact, I had somebody tweet that on Twitter. A business colleague down here. He said he warned us, and he put a link to my crisis. Yeah, like I'm such a guru that I figured that out. Come on, everybody could see that coming. The problem is, Carey, though, and I think this reinforces what you're saying, is the problem is most people or business people are just focused on running their darn business. They're dealing with HR, they're dealing with supply chain, they're
Yeah.
dealing with all this stuff, whereas it's our job to look ahead and go, whoa, this could be happening soon. Take a look at this and prepare for this and plan for this. So how important in your mind is planning? And I want to preface this with saying that I still tell people you can still plan today in the midst of a pandemic. You should plan today. You need to plan 3 quarters ahead of what you're going to do, and you need to game plan all the stuff that could happen to you or organization or your brand depending on what happens with the pandemic. What are your thoughts on planning?
Well, the first thing about the pandemic is that you have to have a plan, because a plan is constant, and it can change and it can evolve, but it's constant, and it's a basis for what you plan to do, because it's a plan. But the pandemic is literally changing every day. And without something that's constant, you can just go off and spin off in all these different directions that really have no benefit to you. So planning is, I mean, that's wonderful that you're encouraging your clients still every day. Make sure that you've got the plan and you're evolving the plan and building the plan and doing all of that. But I think a great example here of how having the plan, regardless of a fluid situation, which, by the way, I'm killing myself for saying that, because we've all heard this is a fluid situation repeated so many times, right? um, but a great example here, if you if you have if you're in a market that has natural disasters that happen frequently, weather disasters is a big issue, right?
Like Houston, right?
Um,
I mean, you have
yeah,
storms.
right. We have hurricanes and rain events and you know 500-year floods that happen every year. So we we work with McDonald's in Houston, and one of the things that we do with them is crisis communications, and that is a very large bucket of activities that all fall into crisis communications for a quick service restaurant, especially one like McDonald's. But that also included, during Hurricane Harvey, the response to Harvey. And one of the things that set us up so well with being able to respond quickly and manage messaging during that weather event was that we had already established a crisis protocol for our clients of, here's how you assess which risk level it is. And at each risk level, you take these actions. And here's the plan from risk level 1. Here's what it means at risk level 2 and risk level 3 and all of that. So we had this framework already established. And then from there, we were able to rely on really just crisis communications and communications in general, best practices of how to manage in that kind of situation. And Harvey was completely unlike the COVID-19 issue that we're dealing with right now, but having that foundation, both from that experience and all of these other experiences, gave us a solid plan to be able to go into this and say, this is how we're going to do it. And ultimately, that's reassuring for our clients. And when they're not sure what's going on, and if their business is going to be available or not available, but around in 6 months, having something like a solid communications plan tackled and activating is peace of mind.
Yeah, and that's and peace of mind is huge right now. Um,
hmm
um, so let me talk to you, if I could shift gears, because I think we're kind of making the case a little bit for what we do. But can I just ask you, as a fellow PR agency owner and
Hmm.
practitioner. If you don't mind, in
Sure.
general, how is you're like, where's he going now? Has he been drinking the virtual martini already? No. How has the pandemic affected CKP?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the first things that hasn't affected us at all is the switch to work from home. We started from the very beginning working from home. Everybody is comfortable with that. So that was not a disruption for our company. The disruption on work from home is that now the you know the mom of two children, two small children, who's used to being able to work from home during the day and have peace and quiet,
Mm-hmm.
now has two small children and and the dog and then her husband at home as well. And so there's a balancing act that has to happen to make sure everything still happens and deadlines are met and also families taken care of. So, in that sense, that's affected a little bit how we operate. We've been really fortunate that our clients see the value in our services and have had very few client drop-offs. We've definitely lost some, but not as much as other agencies that we know and work a lot with have. And really, that goes back to an effort that we've been making for the last few years to diversify our client mix, so we're not in one bucket, one
Smart.
industry.
So smart.
Yeah, I've got friends who have agencies that are nearly all hospitality or
Oh my gosh.
leisure,
Yeah.
and you know they're not sure what next week is going to bring for them.
Yeah.
So I think we're really lucky, uh, and we're lucky because we've been able to display the value to our clients that we can provide to them.
Well, the old saying though, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So you've worked hard to diversify, and I have to confession time here. I'm a smaller shop than you, but similar structure for our agencies, but I'm much
Hmm.
smaller. And by the way, just by full disclosure, Carey and I, who we've never met in person, but we're a member of the same USPR, which is Unified
Hmm.
Strategies Public Relations, which is a kind of a conglomerate's not the right word, but it's an association of small to mid-sized PR marketing firms. Anyway, one thing I was doing, this is, see, I know what I'm doing, and I got some good ideas, but timing is always a problem because
Yeah.
in the midst of this, I was transitioning from generalist to doing crisis comm planning.
Hmm.
I've been doing speaking engagements, I've been doing webinars, I've been doing stuff, and everything was just going great guns. And I was going to speak at the digital summit in May.
Hmm.
All these things were going click, click, click. Right. Well,
Hmm.
here's what happened to me. We get into this crisis, and of course, all my in-person stuff is gone.
Hmm.
Reagan, the big PR firm, they come bigfooting in with all the crisis comm stuff and really expensive online webinars and stuff like that, which is fine.
Hmm.
I'm not mad at them. They have great information. But also, I got a lot of my clientele were just like, or people I would normally hit up about this kind of training, like, well, what good is it now? We're in the middle of it. And I'm like, oh. So I'm going to send them this podcast. Say, don't trust me. Trust Carey. All right, she knows what she's doing. Just talk to her. So I'm in that same boat with some of your other colleagues, unfortunately, but I'm working my way through.
The funny thing about crisis comm training, media training, and spokesperson training through this kind of situation, that what you do is critical, and clients never fully understand it. They might, fully, or they say they fully understand it, but it's like 80% until they have to use those tools. And we had just the most wonderful "I told you so" moment with a client, not in a bad way, during Harvey. And we had a client that they were doing a lot of good in the community. They were one of the only businesses that their supply chain was intact. And so they were able to quickly activate to provide free meals for first responders and do all kinds of stuff. And we had literally a month before gone through this intensive crisis communications um, media training.
Hmm.
And we had actually worked with a partner of ours out of DC, Jeffson Beeman, and worked with that company to do the media training and work together. And they're a really wonderful, wonderful shop, by the way, really world class crisis communication experts. But we worked with them to do this really intense day long training for, I think it was 8 people from this client. And after the first CNBC interview where our client was really like put on the spot on live TV, um, he came back and said, I understand why
Right.
that media training was so intense and why we focused so much on being able to answer thoughtfully in the moment and how to redirect and all of these things that we talked about. I understand completely. Sign me up to do it again. I loved it.
Yeah, now cue the music. Now I'm a believer, right? I
Yeah. Uh-huh.
mean, it's true. I've trained people and been really hard on them. And I work with a guy who's as my co-partner or a co-pilot on training a lot. He's a former journalist, TV news journalist for 16 years. He's both sat in the anchor chair, but also been out in the field. And he just grills them mercilessly.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly clients that have to deal with adversarial situations,
Mm-hmm.
like government or issues related stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember at first, some of them were just like, we take a break and I'm good cop and he's bad cop. He'd go to the
Yeah.
restroom or something, and the client would look at me and go, "Gosh, is this
Yeah.
necessary?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is."
Yes.
And then, just like you, had the same moment. A couple of weeks later, she had her first press conference, and she said, "Oh, thank God you guys grilled me like that," because she got
Mm-hmm.
raked over the coals, but she did a great job. So
Yeah.
there's that. And Carey, as we wrap up, and I could go on and on, but I am being very generous with your time by keeping you. But I wanted to ask you just one other quick question, and then of course I'll throw it open to you to any closing thoughts you have. But can we give for our listeners who are PR folks, who either your students who are going into a career in PR, or you're a contractor, or you have a small agency, or you're part of a corporate team, or whatever, if you're a PR professional, any advice for them right now, in general?
Wow. So much advice. um, I think the most important thing that I try to remind myself um, is that, first of all, this is a great opportunity to be hungry and to learn and to really absorb everything that's happening in this, in our world, and synthesize that information and use it. Take that time to like really understand what's going on and use it. And great time to be hungry and to really be absorbing everything that's happening around us. As PR professionals, I think one of the characteristics I find in everybody is that everybody's hungry and they are observant and they're absorbing what's happening and learning from that all the time. So whether you're a student in college or you're somebody who's in high school and interested in PR and social media and content marketing and all of that, or you're a professional with 30 years under your belt, just keep listening and staying hungry and using this environment as an opportunity to learn. The other thing I want to say is that for people who are not as familiar with crisis communications, this is an excellent time for a masterclass in crisis communications
Yeah.
to look at what's happening, think about how you would handle it, and start formulating those skills. You're going to need them. Everybody's going to need them at some point.
That is the
Um,
best advice. I started my career at the Health Sciences Center in Oklahoma City in April 1995, my PR career, and that's when the terrorist attack on the federal building happened. And
oh, wow.
my first full year at that hospital complex with 3 hospitals, a medical school, all that was consumed by that. And best compliment I ever got, by the way, was from a client. We were in the middle of what was for them a crisis, and it was serious, and there was a lot of tension. They said,
Hmm.
"It's just interesting. As things ratchet up, you seem to get calmer." I said, That's what you have to do, and that's what you're paying me to do. I can't be the one freaking out here. I got to be the one calming down, breathing deeply, and thinking about ways that we can get your message out in the proper way." The knee of my boss from the hospital, Jake Lowry, who guy was just phenomenal, and I learned so much there. So when you said master class, I mean, Folks, listen to Carey. She's totally right. Keep your eyes and ears open. Consume media. Don't go crazy and make yourself, mentally upset by constantly taking a steady diet of COVID. Because I do recommend standing back, but pay attention to what's going on with the industry. See what other PR folks are doing, and frankly, I have we mentioned USPR previously, but I have a good network of colleagues that I don't really believe in competing against other PR firms. It's just like if somebody can do it better than us, go to them. If that's how I feel. But I like to talk to my colleagues, like I'm talking to you, Carey, and just say,
Hmm.
man, here's what's going on with me. I'm struggling with this. How about you? And then for you to go, well, we're doing okay on this, but I'm struggling with this. It's good to have that camaraderie. And that would be my tip to other PR people is you're not alone. You're not alone.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There's always such a tendency, especially locally, to have that kind of competitive relationship, but there's always somebody that you can talk with in another market or that is, a slightly different focus than your agency, and having that camaraderie is so important.
It really is. Carey, as we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to impart before we have last call here?
Oh, no, I'm just enjoying my virtual cocktail though here so much.
Well, for you, they're on the house, and I so appreciate that. Carey, how can people learn more about your company and what you're doing, and maybe if they need to contact you and ask a question or something, how do they do that?
Yeah, sure. They can check out our website, theckpgroup.com, and on the website, you can email us directly.
I like it. I like it. Carey Kirkpatrick, founder and CEO of the CKP Group. Thank you for being here in the virtual lounge.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Folks, the last call bell has been rung, so we're going to have to wrap this one up. But remember, there'll be complete links for everything we mentioned here in the show notes at prafterhours.com. Remember, we're here about twice a week, and if you have a question, there's links in the show notes. You can actually record a message, and you can ask me a question. I can't wait for somebody to finally do that. Nobody's done it yet. It's easy. It's free. It takes you a second. You can use your smartphone, and you can send me a question. I will answer it as best I can right here on the virtual lounge. Also, don't forget, you can go to @HoursPR, that's me on Twitter for this show, or @A_Greenwood on Twitter, but that's more than about the show, and you'll find me griping about the world on there. So if you just want PR stuff, just go to @HoursPR. But all these links are in the show notes. So until next time, I got to wipe down this virtual bar and lock up. And we'll just talk to you next time right here on PR After Hours.